UFC Fight Night Holm vs Aldana takes place this weekend, and I'm going to be going through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown to every single fight on the card. Don't get me wrong, this is not the best card in the world, however, we're still going to go through it, because we sit through every weekend of cards, regardless of how disappointing that card is. We're going to get through this card, don't you worry about it. Starting with the early prelim opener of Luigi Vendramini vs Jourdaing Ayari. I'm actually going to be going with Jourdaing Ayari getting the upset here, because Luigi Vendramini, 8-1, young guy. I understand why he would be the favourite, but he's fought absolute cans. 0-2, 0-1, 0-0, 0-0. We don't know the records of half of them. He beat a guy who was 7-6 to be here, and he lost his last fight to Alessio Zaleski dos Santos, which I don't blame him for, because he took it on short notice, and Alessio Zaleski dos Santos just completely ruined him and flying kneed him in the second round and added to his highlight reel. But still, Jourdaing Ayari, I believe, is a very dangerous guy. I know that Luigi Vendramini took that fight against Zaleski at upper weight class on short notice. I still think coming down to 55, Jourdaing Ayari is not the same as Lucas Iruko, who's 7-6, and Adriano Andre, who's 6-3. I mean, Jourdaing Ayari's fought good guys, beat good guys in his career, and this is not... A lot of people know of Jourdaing Ayari as the guy who came to the UFC, lost to Darren Till, lost to Stevie Ray, and then left. He's 28 years of age. Like, he's still got his whole career ahead of him, and he's had a call from the UFC to come and get his career back with a big win against the guy who's fought complete cans. I'm going to be going with Jourdaing Ayari. He's evens right now. Luigi Vendramini is a favourite purely because of the youth and the recency bias, I'm assuming, because he's won a lot of his recent fights. But still, I'm going to be going with Jourdaing Ayari, beat good opponents in his career, much better opponents than Luigi Vendramini, and is still only 28 years of age, so his career is not like it's in his past and now he's on the decline. I mean, he beat Jimmy Wallhead, who is 29-9, Michael Lebu, who's 14-5, already two guys better than anything on Luigi Vendramini's record, 13-2, 15-7, 8-3, 6-2, like, fought good guys. I'm going to be going with Jourdaing Ayari getting the job done, I'll say by decision, unanimous. Moving on to the second fight on the card, Casey Kenny versus Holly Alateng. I'm going to be going with Casey Kenny here. Beat good guys in his career compared to Holly Alateng. Holly Alateng's good, don't get me wrong, and has some good wins against Dana Batgarel. He had a good win, but his last performance was a little bit too close for my liking against Ryan Benoit, who's now down a weight class at flyweight, losing fights. I don't like how close that was. I mean, if I was going to pick Holly Alateng to beat a guy like Casey Kenny, who I have a ton of respect for, I would at least need to see him go out there and dominate Ryan Benoit, who's now a flyweight who just lost to Tim Elliott, but albeit being in a pretty controversial decision that some people disagreed with. I thought that Tim Elliott could have won that fight. I don't think Holly Alateng's going to get the job done against Casey Kenny. I feel like you need to be something special to beat Casey Kenny, and that's exactly what Merab Dvalishvili is. At first, when we first saw Casey Kenny lose to Merab, we thought, you know, Casey Kenny can't grapple. Lost to this Merab guy who's lost a bunch of his fights. Then now that we know what Merab is, and you know about all of his losses that have been a little bit controversial as well, I think we can give him a little bit of a pass there. I'm definitely going to be picking Casey Kenny. I mean, to be honest, he went to a decision with Merab. Yeah, he got ragdolled, but, you know, he was getting back up. Like, it's pretty hard to do much against Merab. I think we've now found out as he's gone through pretty much the entire division nearly, and we'll see if anyone can stop him inside the top 10 or top 5, but I'm going to be giving this one to Casey Kenny over Holly Alateng. The odds support me as well. I feel like he's a little bit of a heavy favourite against Holly Alateng, a 1-3. I don't understand how he's that big of a favourite, but I'm still going to be going with him. I think he gets it done. Beat Manny Bermudez, beat Ray Borg, beat Lewis Smolka. I think that Brandon Royval would dance rings around Holly Alateng, and Casey Kenny beat Brandon Royval, so I'm definitely going to be going with Casey Kenny here. Like his style, I think he'll get it done by submission. I think he'll crack Holly Alateng, go for some takedowns and get it done by submission in the first or second round. Casey Kenny gets the job done. Moving on up the card to another fight, which is not so good. Lookboonmee versus Yi Frey. Yi Frey last lost her fight to Kay Hansen, sorry, I just added in a G there for no reason. Trying to make things a little bit more interesting. Kay Hansen beat Yi Frey in her last fight. Kay Hansen's not the best in the world, but she's fuckable and she's 20, so I understand it. They put a lot of hype behind her, but Yi Frey lost to her. Not very good, 9-5. Beat some good girls in her career with records of 6-1, 6-2. Some decently good fighters, but last performance didn't really show me too much that I needed to see. didn't show me enough to where I think you're going to beat a girl like Luma Lookboonmee, who literally went tooth and nail with Angela Hill, and in my opinion, had a closer fight with Angela Hill than Michelle Waterson did, and I thought Angela Hill beat Michelle Waterson and beat Claudia Gadelha, so I like Luma Lookboonmee here. She had a real close fight with Angela Hill. People forget about that one. We also forget about the fact that Angela Hill flew across the world on short notice to fight Luma Lookboonmee, but still, Luma Lookboonmee made it razor close. I'm going to respect that. She had good takedown defense there as well. Even got a takedown on Angela Hill, which is tough to do. But I'm still going to go with Luma Lookboonmee getting a job done against Yi and Frey. Just on the up right now. I think Luma Lookboonmee gets it done. Moving on up the card to the prelims. Contender Series alums. Jordan Williams is on the card versus Nassourdine Imavov, Dagestani guy fighting out of France. I feel like Nassourdine Imavov is going to get it done against Jordan Williams. I like Jordan Williams though. I think he's a very good fighter, but I also think that Nassourdine Imavov is a very good fighter, and he's lost to good fighters as well in his career. Jordan Williams, great performance on the Contender Series last. They had to give him a contract because he had a split decision on the last Contender Series, and Dana White said, if you come back and win, I'll give you your shot, and they gave him his shot, so credit to Dana White. He beat Gregory Rodriguez 7-2. I just think that Nassourdine Imavov is going to be a little bit too much to swallow. And also, a lot of people see this as a middleweight taking on a welterweight. That's not the case. You know, that is not the case. Imavov weighed in at his last weigh-in at 175 pounds, and Jordan Williams weighed in at 181 pounds, so he didn't even make the middleweight limit. He just fought at middleweight on the Contender Series show, and this fight's taking place at middleweight. I think that Nassourdine Imavov is going to get the job done. Jordan Williams is a good fighter. He's got good stand-up. I think we're going to see Nassourdine just come out there, be a little bit too fast, a little bit too switched on. I do like that he went to a split decision with Kuramagomedov, Kuramagomedov is a savage who's now 8-0, and this was the closest fight of his career, and it was a loss, don't get me wrong, but it's a good loss to have, but I'm still going to be going with Nassourdine Imavov, Dagestani guy. It's hard to doubt him recently, but I'm still going to be going with him. Beat a guy 9-1, 6-5, 12-4, not the best guys in the world, but still better than some of the names that stick out on Jordan Griffin's record. I'm going to be going with Nassourdine Imavov getting the upset, because I don't know why he's a bit of an underdog. I'm really confused as to why he's a bit of an underdog. I feel like this should be pretty much dead even. I'm going to be going with Nassourdine Imavov getting him out of there reasonably quickly, I would imagine. I think Nassourdine Imavov gets him out of there by submission in the first round. Moving on, up the card. Joshua Kalibau versus Charles Jourdaing. Please be next on the card. Yes, it is. Charles Jourdaing versus Joshua Kalibau. I guessed that one. I'm going to be going with Charles Jourdaing. Joshua Kalibau lost to Jarlin Turner in his last fight. Hasn't really fought too good competition. He fought good competition at the start of his career. Had some good competition there, had a bit of an amateur background, fought some good competition, but then just sort of went back to fighting cans. And I'm going to pick you to beat Charles Jourdaing. I just don't see that happening whatsoever. I think Charles Jourdaing's last performance against Andre Fili was amazing. I thought Andre Fili was going to go out there and just show him a clinic on wrestling. That did not happen. Charles Jourdaing has clearly been working on his wrestling defense. He lost another fight up a weight class at lightweight against Desmond Green. You guys might remember him. He's now in prison, I'm pretty sure, for killing someone with a car in an accident or something. I don't know why we got into that part of it, but still, Charles Jourdaing, good fighter. I think he'll get it done against Joshua Kalibau by being a little bit too switched on, and I could actually see him getting it done in reasonably dominant fashion against Joshua Kalibau. I'll say he'll get the finish in the second round by TKO. Charles Jourdaing gets it done, plus he's got a cool nickname, Charles Air Jourdaing. Pretty cool nickname, in my opinion. I like it, and he's fought good guys as well, but he did lose to TJ Laramie outside the UFC, which I don't like. I don't like that one too much whatsoever, to be honest with you. But he's also fought some good guys outside the UFC with respectable records. And he's also been 5 rounds outside the UFC, which is tough to say for a lot of people. So I'm definitely going to be going with Charles Jourdaing getting it done. Moving on up the card to another fight. And I don't know why this is on the prelims compared to some of the filth on the main card. Carlos Condit versus Court McGee. I'm going with Carlos Condit. Been watching some of his fights recently, some of his recent losses. Michael Chiesa won. I mean, you could argue that first round for him, he was doing good on the feet, much better than Chiesa, because Chiesa doesn't know what his hands are and doesn't know how to throw them towards his opponent in any way dignifying manner whatsoever. But still, I'm going to be going with Carlos Condit. Good ground game, showed good submissions against Michael Chiesa as well. I mean, there were 3 moments in that fight where Chiesa could have been submitted if he went the wrong way, like if he zigged when he should have zagged. That armbar was in the second time. The first time it was in as well, but you know, Carlos Condit showed good ground game, and to be fair to him, he's only really lost to guys recently with great ground games. Michael Chiesa is the apex grappler in the welterweight division right now, outside of Covington and Usman, of course. But still, good grappler, on the come up, still young in his career. Fair enough, he beat Carlos Condit. I think if you give him a guy like Court McGee, I'm going to be going with Carlos Condit getting a job done. Taller guy, naturally bigger welterweight, can push the pace as well. I think he'll go out there and school Court McGee. And I could even see him getting a submission on Court McGee, and funnily enough, I could see Court McGee maybe getting him down in the second round after Condit wins the first, and Condit just latches up an armbar or a anything. I think Condit could get it done, and I'll actually probably pick him by armbar in the second round submission. Condit gets it done. Other than that, I probably see him getting it done by decision, because it's pretty hard to KO Court McGee unless your name is Santiago Ponzinibbio. I'm going to be going with Carlos Condit. Court McGee's just lost too many close fights recently. Diego Lima, if you're going to beat Carlos Condit, beat Diego Lima, because Carlos Condit's only lost to Maia, Alex Oliveira, which isn't that good, don't get me wrong, but Alex Oliveira, but Maia, you know, good opponents, Robbie Lawler, Johnny Hendricks. I don't mind it. I'm going to be going with Carlos Condit here. I think it's a good fight for him, and I hope he gets the win as well, but I think he will get the win. Nothing I see in Court McGee's game tells me he's going to go out there and beat Carlos Condit, so I'm going to be going with Carlos Condit. Moving on, up the card, Kyler Phillips versus Cameron Else. Cameron Else from the UK, trains at Jackson Wink. I should be repping him. I'm going to be picking Kyler Phillips. He's a very reasonable favourite, in my opinion. Not reasonable, but still, he deserves to be the favourite very clearly. He had a great performance against Gabriel Silva in his last one. It's hard to deny him after that last performance. He looked really good. He had a great performance on the Contender Series as well. Cameron Elsey has just fought again, I don't know how they're making it in the UFC. Cage Warriors, last night or 2 nights ago, was an amazing card, stacked with brutal talent. Top to bottom. I mean, the Proctor, the Love Dr. Proctor, was fighting Mason Jones on that card. I can't remember his first name. I think it's Jonathan Proctor or Joe Proctor. The Love Doctor was fighting Mason Jones. Both guys, respectable records, fought great competition, deserved their shot in the UFC, and we're giving it to Cameron Elsey, a guy whose last fighter... Sorry, I don't mean to shit on Cameron Elsey here, but his last win was against a guy who was what? 3-14? The one before that, 0-1? I mean, he's 10-4. Like... Why? Him? Out of everyone that we could have. I know I'm talking about lightweights and Mason Jones, but he's now the welterweight Cage Warriors champ. Like, there's a lot of guys. Jack Cartwright right now in Cage Warriors. There's a lot of talent. Why are we getting Cameron Else 10-4? I guess it's to make Kyler Phillips look really good. I think he is going to go out there and get the job done. Cameron Else is a dangerous submission game against complete cans. Kyler Phillips showed a great ground game against Gabriel Silva. I think he'll go out there and get it done reasonably quick in the first round by KO. Else has been KO'd earlier in his career against cans as well. Even in the jumps up in Cameron Else's career, I mean, he's lost to a guy 9-7, 10-7. I think I'm going to be going with Gabriel Silva getting the job done by first round finish, actually. I think he'll make a statement here and get the job done. Moving on to the main card. And it gets worse on the main card. Daquan Townsend is here. 3 fights lost in a row. Versus Dusko Todorovic. I'm glad that Dusko Todorovic is finally making his debut. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. But Dusko Todorovic is a guy outside the UFC, undefeated, 9-0. Normally you look at a record like that and you think, who has he really been fighting now? Turns out, 8-0 guy is when he was in his 3rd ever fight, 2-0. And he's been around... And he's fought good guys. He's 9-0. He's dangerous. He was supposed to fight John Phillips 3 times already this year. All of them got postponed and rescheduled. And eventually that fight never happened whatsoever. Because of Khamzat Chimaev getting his hands on John Phillips instead. But still, I think he'll go out there and beat Daquan Townsend. This fight's taking place at middleweight. And Daquan Townsend is 6'3", I believe, with a 79-inch reach, and is a huge man. I don't know how on earth he's going to make middleweight, and I could actually see him failing to make weight here recently. Especially recently with all the weight misses that we've seen under the current circumstances. I feel like Daquan Townsend, honestly, is going to go out there and miss weight, but Dusko Todoric's going to get in there, be a little bit too quick for him in that first round, and catch him and get him out of there. Daquan Townsend... The mindset these two people are in, Dusko Todorovic has not had his chance yet, has been around, beaten everyone that's good fighters, 14-4, 20-8, 10-4, 8-1, 8-0, good opponents in his first few fights to see. Waiting for his chance. Had a bunch of fights rebooked and rescheduled, still waiting for his opportunity in the UFC, and I think Daquan Townsend probably woke up from a rough weekend to a phone call saying, you've got a fight in October 3rd and probably said something along the lines of, hang on a second, I've still got a job, I'm 0-3. Have some respect to UFC and fire me. And even the UFC didn't want to fire Daquan Townsend. Daquan Townsend agrees with us here. He doesn't think he belongs either. He's lost 3 in a row, and he never won in the first place. This ain't Cerrone. This is a guy who joined and never won. He's a big guy, though. So maybe he goes out there and just completely dwarfs Dusko Todorovic and gets it done. Don't see it happening. Todoric's going to put a piece in on him real bad and beat him up in the first round by finish. Especially after that weight cut to middleweight, even though he's a big light heavyweight. Dusko Todorovic first round TKO. Moving on. Up the card to another fight, which doesn't get... it got worse again. It's not even Roman Kopylov versus Tom Breese. I was excited for that one, don't get me wrong. I like Roman Kopylov and Tom Breese, but... Tom Breese is now going to be taking on, wait for it, KB Bülbül, a Canadian-born guy, an Indian guy, which we don't see a lot of in the UFC, so respect. Represent him well. I just don't think he gets it done. Fought a bunch of cans, hasn't beat good opponents, hasn't really looked too impressive either, in the way that even though he's finished some guys, I've watched some fights, doesn't look like a world beater coming up, like not the usual undefeated, not like Dusko Todorovic kind of undefeated coming to the UFC. Was supposed to be fighting on the Contender Series a couple weeks from now in November. What's the date? Yeah, November the 11th. Yep, November. Was supposed to be fighting on the Contender Series, I believe in their comeback series, which they're doing 2 of this year, but then got the call to fill in against Tom Breese, so this is not a short notice replacement. I don't see him getting gassed out, but what I do see happening is Tom Breese going out there and submitting him in the first or second round, getting the job done. This is the best guy he's fought, Tom Breese, which shouldn't be the case, really. I'd like for you to have fought some dangerous guys outside the UFC, but look, 16-3, 13-2, like 4-8, 3-1, 5-8, 0-1, and you look at the guys that Tom Breese has fought throughout his career and looked good against. Some good guys, you know, even though he's lost to Brendan Allen. I mean, I predicted Brendan Allen would win that fight by first round TKO. That was after a long time off as well for Tom Breese. So now he's shaking off the cobwebs a little bit. He's getting back in there. I think he'll get the job done. Plus, he stayed active in grappling competition as well, winning a lot of grappling bouts. I think he'll go out there, take down, what's his name, KB Bülbül, and then get it done by submission in the first or second round. Moving on. Jesus, it doesn't get better. Germaine de Randamie versus Juliana Peña. This one's better. Jesus, though. What on earth is this card, man? Germaine de Randamie versus Juliana Peña. This is difficult because Juliana Peña's got a good ground game. She's got good takedowns as well. She got submitted by Valentina Shevchenko, but that's no hard feelings. Shevchenko seems to do that to a lot of girls. Germaine de Randamie, good striker, showed good ground game against Nunes and showed an improvement there. Almost had Nunes in a triangle at one point and had her finished. And even on the ground, didn't look completely lost against Nunes like a lot of people expected, because although she got taken down by Nunes and beaten in the ground situations by Nunes, she didn't look like the fight was over as soon as it hit the ground. And I feel like Germaine de Randamie's going to go out there and beat Juliana Peña, because you're talking about a girl in Juliana Peña, although is a dangerous submission artist, couldn't get the submission against Nico Montano. 4-2, beat absolutely fucking no one, but somehow had a belt. That's how much of a disgrace that division is, and that's why she's ranked so highly. Because Montano vacated, still with a high rank. Peña beat her. I understand she beat Kat Zingano, couldn't submit her. Jessica Raya couldn't submit her. I think I'll put Germaine de Randamie in the same ballpark as some of those fighters. Not to mention, a lot of these fighters are down a weight class and now they're coming up to 135. I think Germaine de Randamie is going to be a little bit too big for her, a little bit too dangerous, and I could see her getting a quick finish on the feet here against Juliana Peña. Although this card is not stacked, I think it's going to be very entertaining with a lot of fun finishes, because that tends to be what happens, especially after last weekend's card, or just a couple of days ago's card. There wasn't a lot of amazing moments throughout the card anyway. Some of the later fights on the card were pretty good, but still, I'm going to go Germaine de Randamie. I think she can survive on the ground, and I think she'll keep it standing and beat up Juliana Peña on the feet with some brutal leg kicks, eventually finishing by TKO. Moving on to the co-main event. The co-main event. Yorgan de Castro versus Carlos fucking Felipe. What a co-main event. You've got Carlos Felipe coming off a loss to Sergey Spivak in his UFC debut, now in a co-main event slot. It's not a joke. This is the sport right now. This is the sport right now. Yeah? It's not a joke. Alright? although he looked pretty good against Sergey Spivak in the first round, I'm probably going to be going with Jourdaing de Castro here, because although a lot of people seem to remember him just by his big KO against, what's his name, Justin Tafar at UFC Auckland, or not UFC Auckland, I believe it was UFC 234, Adesanya versus Whitaker, might not have even been that, might have been something a bit later, might have been, I don't even know what it was, but it was a card that existed, and I almost want to say it was UFC 243? Please? Yes, it was 243. I'll take it, boys. Oh yeah, the fight prediction though. I thought I was over. I thought I'd already won. But Jourdaing de Castro, in my opinion, is going to get it done. He's got good kicks, really good kicks. Showed that against Greg Hardy. The only reason I believe he actually lost a Greg Hardy fight, and this is coming from a guy who picked Greg Hardy to win, is because Hardy broke his foot by checking one of the kicks. And listen, that happens sometimes. That doesn't happen a lot of the other times when someone checks your kick. You don't just immediately break your foot like that. But as soon as he broke his foot, it was very clear that he was just trying not to get KO'd rather than win the fight. And I think he'll go out there this time against Carlos Felipe and land something clean on his chin in the first round with superior hand speed. First round KO for Jourdaing de Castro. I watched the Justin Tafar fight again. It wasn't even like Tafar was beating him up, and then he just landed the one big shot as Tafar rushed in. Like, he was landing good shots on Tafar, great body kicks as well, good leg kicks. I like Jourdaing de Castro's style. I think he'll go out there and look good against Carlos Felipe, who just took a beating against Sergey Spivak in that third round. That could have been a 10-8 in that third round. I'm not liking it. I'm going to go with Jourdaing de Castro. Plus, Carlos Felipe is not a giant guy either, so I don't think he'll be out there dwarfing Jourdaing de Castro and being able to outrange him. I'll go with Jourdaing de Castro getting it done by a first round KO. Moving on to the main event, which is okay. It's an okay fight. Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana. I'm going to go with Irene Aldana here. I think she gets it done against Holly Holm. I respect Holly Holm, but it seems like recently you just fucking hold people against the cage. And I don't pick a fight based out of emotion. I'm not just picking against Holly Holm because I don't like her recent performances, because they've sent me to bed. But I'm definitely going to be going with Irene Aldana here. I've seen what I like to see from her. She's got good stand-up, really good stand-up actually, in a lot of her fights, and she pushes one hell of a pace. So a lot of the argument that people have made here is that Holly Holm's had 5-round experience. She knows how to work the clock and set a pace and control the time, and she'll win this by decision, 5 rounds. Irene Aldana fights at a completely different pace to Holly Holm and can still go 3 rounds hard and doesn't seem to slow down in the 3rd round. Now, a lot of people bring up the Raquel Pennington fight and say, Holly Holm won the Raquel Pennington fight. Holly Holm lost the 2nd round of the Pennington fight. Just want to mention that. And then they say, Irene Aldana lost to Raquel Pennington. Irene Aldana won the 1st and 2nd round, in my opinion, of the Raquel Pennington fight. The 3rd round was close. Irene Aldana even attacking with submissions off bottom. Had good takedown defense in that fight. Good clinch control. She has really good knees in the clinch and a really good tie clinch control as well. I think she'll go out there, work the body of Holly Holm, eventually get herself maybe a 2nd round TKO. After her last performance against Ketlen Vieira, who now bounced back against Ayari Eubanks on last weekend's card, I'll probably be going with Irene Aldana here. Getting the job done. She's taken a long time off. I like that she's taken a long time off, because she's taken a long time off between the ages of 31 and 32. I think she was 30 when she last fought, and now she's 32. That's her entire prime, pretty much, that she's taken a long time out of. And I think she'll improve tenfold and go out there and beat Holly Holm. She seems to be improving every single time she goes out there. I think she'll get it done. She had great performances in her career. Holly Holm is just... Although a lot of people say that, she lost to Nunes and she lost to Jermaine Randamie and Chris Cyborg and Valentina Shevchenko. And Irene Aldana's not on those guys' level, so you can't pick against Holly Holm. I'm going to go with Irene Aldana. She beat Ketlen Vieira, who was 10-1, who's now 11-1. Or who was 10-0, sorry, undefeated, who's now 11-1. You know, she beat Vanessa Mello, who's decent enough. Beat her pretty badly. Beat Betch Correia with an armbar, submitted her. You know, Betch Correia had a close fight with Holly Holm for 2 rounds, just standing there doing nothing. Like, it's kind of hard to bet against Irene Aldana here as the young blood coming up. And I say young blood, still 32 years of age. Holly Holm has a bit of a reach advantage as well. But Irene Aldana's a tall girl. Being tall tends to help out quite dramatically in a clinch at times, especially when you're looking for double unders. The person who's taller seems to have the opponent on their tiptoes. You saw this in Kelvin Gastelum versus Darren Till. I don't think Holly Holm's going to be able to control Irene Aldana against a cage like she did to Raquel Pennington. And even the Raquel Pennington fight was close. So I don't know, man. But obviously if Holm wins this one, she'll get a fucking title shot at men's heavyweight or something, because that just seems to be how it works. But I'm definitely going to be going with Irene Aldana. I think she gets the win, because I look at some of Holly Holm's wins, and don't get me wrong, Raquel Pennington, I like the win. I do respect it. You lost to Amanda Nunes. You beat Megan Anderson. I don't really know what that means to me at this point. You know, you lost to Chris Cyborg pretty handily, which was kind of tough. But you beat Betchka Hare by head kick. But, you know, it's the same name on Irene Aldana's record that she beat. And then she beat Ronda Rousey, which was a good win, don't get me wrong. But, you know, split decision to Raquel Pennington before. 5-4. Like, that was Raquel Pennington when she was 5-4. Like, I just don't see Holly Holm winning this one. I don't see her just bullying Irene Aldana in the clinch. And I most definitely don't, as much as it shocks me to say this, as Holly Holm is a world champion in this and a world champion in that, don't see her outstriking Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana's got a bit of spite. I like her stand-up. Think she'll do well to go to the body as well. She throws a lot of good punches to the body. She's got great boxing. Trains with Alexa Grasso, who also is a girl fighter who has great boxing as well. I'm going to be going with Irene Aldana, taking a lot of time off, evolving her game. Gets it done against Holly Holm. Taller, a little bit more difficult to control in the clinch. Pushes a great pace over 3 rounds and doesn't seem to get too tired. I think she'll get it done against Holly Holm, but there's a decently good chance Holm just fucking hugs her against the cage. So, we'll see. But at the same time, back when Holm did it against, Raquel Pennington, holding against the cage was seen as quite a big thing, you know? But now it's not. Look at Anthony Rocco Martin versus Neil Magny. Rocco Martin just held him against the cage and kept up in strikes in the first and second round and got nothing for it. They gave every round to Magny. One of the judges did anyway. So I'm definitely going to be going with Irene Aldana. Cage control doesn't seem to be as much of a factor anymore. Grappling doesn't seem to be as much of a factor. Damage does, and I think she can do some damage with knees and elbows in the clinch and some good combos on the feet as well. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button there. Goodbye. Redemption season, boys. That last card was a shocker. We got the old beanie on, and we're going to take over. Goodbye.